Paul.
Yes.
Mhm. I'm just sitting here reading this New Scientist, and I was reading this the blackout caused by Hurricane Maria,
Yes.
largest and longest in U.S. history, according to policy analysis firm Rhodidium Group. Now, the storm hit in late September, and the firm calculates that as of the 26th of October, it had disrupted 1.25 billion hours of electricity supply. Yeah, for American citizens, mostly in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
hmm Could you call the Rhodium Group for me? That's Rhodium.
Yeah.
See, when they do their policy analysis of these hurricanes,
Yeah.
mhm, I'd like to know every hurricane in the last 60 years.
Yes.
Now, 1.25 billion hours of electricity supply.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's more than $1 an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe it could be $10 an hour.
Yes.
And when you think about hurricanes and the use of electricity,
Yeah.
I was wanting to make some electricity. Now, it sounds kind of stupid,
Right.
to intentionally want to manufacture and sell electricity where it's not being used. But it must cost a lot more in electricity once they turn it back on. You know, let's say I looked at these natural disasters and the disrupted use of electricity.
Yes.
Could you get me the ownership of the various electric companies that supply electricity to Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
And I just caught a little blurb on the television. I guess they're having another one of those hurricanes in Florida.
Yeah.
Must be somewhat frustrating right now. See, I was wanting to double the Earth's electricity supply, and anytime I can get paid more for the electricity that I produce,
Yes.
I have to think in billions of hours of disrupted electricity use. Now, for every time we have a hurricane, somebody's not getting paid for the electricity that should have been supplied. And we keep putting up those telephone poles or power lines.
Yes.
Now, could you get me the actual Rhodidium group?
Yeah.
I'd like to know all their policy analysis.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to manufacture some electricity because of the use of desalinated water and steam generating. Now, let's say we're talking about trillions of dollars.
Right.
I found out that there's now a health threat to the climate crisis. It looks like 122 million in Africa and southern Asia
Yes.
are starving of undernourishment
Yes.
because of climate change.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're not one of those that is really missing any meals, but the report forecast a billion additional heat wave exposures by 2050.
Yes.
Such period of high heat can be particularly deadly for babies, young children, and older people. Now, could you call the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization?
Yeah.
See, if you had a large amount of water
Yes.
that you used a steam generator to cool the steam
Yes.
that produced the fresh water,
Yeah.
it's possible that I could increase the food supply of Africa. And then there's this thought that what if I released the steam over Africa,
Yes.
ended up in the atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and in some way it cooled down the whole continent? Now, as busy as you are today,
Yes.
I'm kind of thinking that I can sue the United Nations
Yes.
for having any knowledge of my indigent status
Yes.
as being obstructed from receiving an attorney
Mm-hmm.
when motioning a court for dissolution of marriage. See, a little earlier today, I was very upset at this whole thought of you issued a custody order.
Yeah.
My sons are living with my wife,
Yes.
and our marriage certificate is issued from the United Nations. Now, when we look at the United Nations,
Yes.
do they have any indigency status, economic status of those that are refugees and various UN refugee camps throughout the world?
Yes.
For the last 50 years. that for some reason they couldn't afford an attorney. In fact, why don't you get me all the contributions to the United Nations? Yes. See, I know there's this idea. Yes. Mhm. Once you're married, you would never want to get a divorce in the United Nations. And considering most of the individuals that have UN marriage certificates, yes, were actually very indigent, undernourished refugees in refugee camps.